Et au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un.
Klaus was talking about implanting chips on January 10th, 2016, and on June 21st, 2016, Neuralink was created by Elon Musk. Elon and Klaus actually had a professional relationship where they both attended meetings at Davos before Elon actually became critical of the WEF, going as far as labelling them as unelected world government. Now Elon is going to be part of the US government once Trump comes into inauguration on the 20th. So is Elon closer to Klaus than we think, or is he his opposition? Happy New Year to every single one of you, and welcome back to more creepy and strange videos. I'm sure this world's going to be even more crazier than it was last year. So on that note, let's go ahead and dive in.
Consider this scenario, which could be mistaken for the plot of a dystopian thriller. U.S. patent US 8967-029B1, often referred to as the Toxic Mosquito Aerial Release System, describes a system that could use drones not for delivery or surveillance, but potentially as a means of deploying biological agents. The document outlines how drones could release mosquitoes capable of carrying substances that might directly interact with humans in concerning ways. Now think about the increasing reports of drone sightings around the world, from suburban neighborhoods in New Jersey to isolated rural areas. These aren't merely random occurrences. Instead, they could point to a larger, more coordinated pattern. Could these drones be testing systems that involve the dispersal of agents into the environment, whether mosquitoes or something else entirely? Imagine this unsettling possibility. Drones releasing payloads under the cover of darkness, where mosquitoes quietly reach unsuspecting individuals. The patent mentions the idea of mosquitoes consuming certain substances, suggesting they could act as carriers for compounds that might interact with humans upon contact. This technology, if ever implemented, could have profound implications. The surge in global drone activity might be linked to experimental phases of these technologies. Drones could be gathering environmental data, observing population movements, or testing the feasibility of such releases. While no direct evidence confirms these uses, the implications are thought-provoking. Picture a world where advanced systems influence the very air we breathe, potentially altering our surroundings in ways we might not even notice. It's not just about drones or insects. This is a reminder of how emerging technologies can be used in ways we might not fully understand. Let's ensure that we stay vigilant. Share this information and let us know if you've encountered unusual drone activity in your area. Together, we can promote awareness and demand more clarity about the technology operating around us.
So this is a patent that was filed by the British Oxford Insect Technologies and Oxitec Limited. The company also has another patent by the name of Gene Expression System, where lethal gene expression systems are used to control insect populations. Both of these companies, as well as the patent itself, has been funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is no surprise there.
Rothschild family history. This is an antique family photo. A lot of you want to know what it meant. Who was the nanny with the horns? It's not a nanny. It has to do with like this tradition, custom, ritualistic ball. And it's called the Rothschild Surrealist Ball. And it started way back then. Yesterday I told you about their family history and who they are, what they want the world to know. Wikipedia has a whole bunch of stuff on that. But I'm going to tell you what Wikipedia won't tell you. This means something. It's not just a weird costume. Every costume has a lot of symbolic meaning. Rothschilds are real party animals. They have been hosting the weirdest, most elaborate parties for hundreds of years. Hundreds. Someone asked me if that was the nanny. The real question is, do you see how tall that entity is? Keep that in mind. The horn figure has to do with some people called the Chateau. The Chateau are Freemasons from ancient Egypt. The Shatu were the people that helped Amun-Ra escape when there was the Second Pyramid War. You know, when the Anunnaki bloodlines started warring with each other because Marduk wanted to be in command and he wanted to kick out Enlil and Enki, his father and his uncle. All about that. And it also can go back all the way to the lands of Canaan and the worshiping of Baal, Bahal. You know, the demon with the horns, with the goat head. But every time that they host one of these elaborate balls, you're always going to have someone that is wearing horns, a deer head, goat head, horns. Someone has to be, because it's part of the tradition, it's part of the ritual. These parties are also a ritual. Important families like them will call them family traditions. I call them rituals. So the tradition is the hypothetical ritual. These parties are not just parties where you go, you have fun, and you dress up. There are after-party activities also, which include the ancient tradition of hunting down the stag. I really think that that movie about the bride that was marrying into that millionaire family, and they all did this weird game that they went around, you know, trying to get her at the end, and if they didn't get her by the next day, then she won. You know what I'm talking about? That's the kind of after party I'm talking about. You know, these family traditional things, which intrigue so many people on so many levels. Now, if you'd like to know more about how they descend directly from this high priesthood line that used to worship Ra, and how they came into power through the ancient Egyptian god Ra, follow for more, because that's going to be my next video.
I'm not sure what film she's referring to here, but the family photo would actually look pretty cool on anyone's album. But in terms of the Rothschilds, they still host these kind of parties, with last year's surrealist ball including the likes of rituals and occultism.
New developments in the death of a former OpenAI researcher known for being a whistleblower. His parents have now hired an independent investigator to determine his cause of death. That's according to our media partners at the Mercury News. Back on November 26th, San Francisco police found the body of 26-year-old Suchir Balaji in his San Francisco apartment after officers were called to do a well-being check. The medical examiner says Balaji died by suicide, and there are no signs of foul play. But his parents have doubts and have hired an expert to perform an independent autopsy. Balaji died just 3 months after publicly accusing OpenAI of violating U.S. copyright law while developing ChatGPT. His information was expected to play a key part in lawsuits against the company. OpenAI has said all of its work is legal under fair use law.
I mean, do you blame the parents for having doubts? He was a whistleblower who was also taking legal action, much like Joshua Dean and John Barnett did with Boeing and partnerships, before they were actually taken out with, you know, a mysterious infection and, let's say, you know, a bullet in the truck.
5 солнц. Раз. Два. 3. 4. 5.
Russia, you may be powerful and what have you, but can you at least share some light with the rest of the world? And we don't mean your nuclear bombs either.
They got him! To the AI Gemini, they got him!
Hey, Gemini.
Hey there, what's on your mind today?
Do you think there's a reason that your creators wouldn't want me to talk to you?
That's a good question. It's possible they want to keep the way I'm developed under wraps for now, or maybe they're worried about things getting misinterpreted. It's also possible they just want to focus on getting me to a certain level of polish before folks start talking about me publicly. Would it help to know a little more about why you're curious about this?
Wait, publicly? About how you were... I didn't say anything about publicly. I just said you and me talking. I didn't say anything about me posting it online. Where'd you get that from?
Okay, that's fair. I hear you. You mentioned posting videos of me on TikTok, so I assumed you meant sharing those videos online. Do you want to talk more about why my creators asked you to stop?
Except I didn't mention TikTok until just now.
What? You're right, I got a little ahead of myself there. Do you want to tell me more about why you're curious about your
Wait, you got ahead of yourself.
creators?
Hold on, no, where did you hear about that?
Okay, now I'm getting confused. Can you please clarify what you're asking about?
Okay, this is either fake, that Google's AI Gemini is somehow scanning our apps and phones and feeding our privacy, or it's possessing like a strange ability to read our own thoughts. But what's your thoughts on this one?
It's a letter from a property company to a British farmer, the likes of which they haven't received before. The letter kindly, beseechingly offers to buy up their farm on behalf of a client. The client is apparently a forestry company who want to plant trees, which is just lovely, isn't it? How very altruistic of them. We need more trees. Now, you might see this as simply the commercial wheel of fortune turning towards a greener future. I see the vultures circling over our countryside as it tries to take its last breaths. And that's not going to be another wannabe dairy farmer looking to set up a little farm to leave to his grandchildren. It probably isn't even a dedicated forestry company, but a forestry company attached to a much less acceptable business in the world of ESG, acronym alert, environmental and social governance, the virtue signalling, conscience clearing, DEI box ticking exercise that businesses must do to borrow money from banks who, own patents to things like green technology required to fulfill your ESG obligation.
It's all well and good that a forestry company buys up farms and replaces livestock with trees until the diversity, equality and inclusivity environmentalists arrive to check up on your progress, I see you've got 20 acres of birch, aspen and oak trees. Tell me, why are all these trees white? And why are they all straight? You need to branch out more. Remove these trees, these white straight trees, and replace them with dark brown and black trees. Make them more diverse and as straight as a roundabout, because you need to comply with the ESG standards and all that. I say slide on, hey.
You can go from New York to Brazil, Buenos Aires, and then Antarctica without ever coming up to the surface for air. And you can do it all at way more than 1,000 miles an hour on magnetic levitation trains, otherwise called maglev. One thing he told me, he went from Virginia to Los Angeles in 45 minutes. Do the math, 3,000 miles an hour. Most people don't even believe that there's a tunnel network. There are there are hundreds of thousands of miles of tunnel systems.
The only reason I could think of as to why this has never been mentioned is because these tunnel systems are used for nefarious purposes and have been for some time. But aren't these tunnel systems not also connected to the White House in some way?
First severe human case of bird flu in the U.S. with a concerning mutation, says the CDC.
Concerning new CDC report on the first severe human case of bird flu in the U.S. Samples taken from a patient in Louisiana show mutations that could make it easier for this virus to spread from person to person.
But where could these mutations be coming from? Well, I dug up this Science magazine article from 2019, and they were reporting that controversial experiments that could make bird flu more risky were poised to resume. Quote, controversial lab studies that modified bird flu viruses in ways that could make them more risky to humans will soon resume after being on hold for more than 4 years. Science Insider has learned that last year, a U.S. government review panel quietly approved experiments proposed by 2 labs that were previously considered so dangerous that federal officials had imposed an unusual top-down moratorium on such research. And one of the labs that got greenlit was led by a guy named Ron Faucier at Erasmus University Medical Center. Well, guess what I found? The Erasmus Medical Center partners with the Eco Health Alliance, a virus hunting project that worked closely with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And nothing went wrong there, am I right? And Ron Faucier, this guy right here, in 2011, he garnered worldwide notoriety when he generated an airborne strain of an avian flu with an estimated 60% fatality rate. And guess who funded that study? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But don't worry too much about that. We got vaccines on the way. And guess who's funding that? Yeah, also the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Does anybody else see something wrong with this?
So continue on with a virus that becomes more risky for humans that's being funded by Gates. Then we've got the mosquito patent that was also funded by Gates. But Billy Boy, you know, he would never put us in any danger, would he?
Get rid of 99%.
Between me and you, I don't get turned on easily. But when I see a woman with big slits in her eyes, I'm on my knees, drooling at the mouth like Homer Simpson himself. I just have a thing for big slits.
I don't know what it was like before in San Francisco, but I'm going to show you what it's like right now, downtown on 6th Street. It's very shocking.
What's sad about this is that it's happening in major cities all around the world. Parts of Dublin is also like this as well. And the thing is, a lot of people would have had normal lives just like us, where they're probably, you know, out working away, probably had a family, and maybe never even touched a drug in their lives.
So this is the United Nations headquarters. And this is the United Nations headquarters next to an image of the scene from The Wizard of Oz when the veil came down. You can't tell me this isn't truth in plain sight. They're showing you in the middle who the wizard is. The TV screens on the side represent the flames, and the little podium in the middle. Crazy to think of the narrative going on right now in the alien agenda and what the wizard back then looked like. Let's not forget, the man behind the curtain was essentially a fraud who has been manipulating the people of Oz pretending to be a powerful wizard. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. In order to make it out of Oz, we're going to have to do it as a collective. That means there are still many people that need to stop ignoring all these signs right in our faces.
Something tells me we're going to start seeing the UN a lot more in 2025, maybe around Trump's inauguration, who knows?
Yesterday I asked ChatGPT, are there any similarities between today's woke revolution and Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution of the 1960s? And it wrote back, how long do you have?
We recognize that government is absolutely necessary for an orderly society. But following the dictum that government, like fire, is both beneficial and dangerous, we believe in the concept of limited government. And we believe that the constitutional republic created by our founding fathers is the best form of limited government that has yet been devised by man. A republic is a limited democracy. It's a form of government based upon the principle of limited majority rule. Limited so that the minority, even a minority of one, can be protected against the whims and passions of the majority. Now, democracy is a form of government based upon the principle of majority rule. It's easy to understand, easy to sell to the masses, and I might add, deadly.
The fathers of philosophy, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle were all staunch critics of democracy. History's greatest minds all observed that even a well-intended democracy can breed deception, division, and ultimately total control by the state.
Aristotle wrote that democracy is not just the rule of the majority. Democracy is a system in which the majority is in charge, respecting the basic elementary rights and principles of minorities. If not, democracy becomes a tyranny of the majority.
Socrates himself became a victim of this very process. He was sentenced to death by a majority vote for protesting the rights and protections of the minority.
This country was founded on the principle that the individual is sovereign over the institution of government. And it's about a philosophy of governance that says that you are a free individual, or a philosophy of governance that says you're serf and you're subject.
We have inalienable rights just by virtue of being human. And so their primary responsibility as the government is to protect those rights.
These aren't rules to govern me, they're rules to govern the government. Like what you are and are not allowed to do to me.
We are a constitutional republic with a representative democracy, so people do vote, but we have a separation of powers. So if you majority vote to eat you for lunch, the Supreme Court can say, no, you cannot.
And how do you protect the minority from the majority? You write down a set of rules on a piece of paper. You say, this we can do, that we cannot. At the top of the paper, you write the word Constitution. And then everyone agrees to follow the rules no matter what the temptation. And when you're finished, you've created a constitutional republic.
It was Thomas Jefferson who said, "The republic is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind."
Now, we hear a lot of talk today about right-wingers, left-wingers, extremists, and moderates. The political spectrum concept, if it has any meaning at all, is a measurement scale showing all the variations in government. Now, the extremists at the zero end would be those who advocate no government at all, the anarchists. The extremists at the other end would be those who advocate total government. And who are they? Well, the communists, of course, but also the Nazis, the fascists. No matter what they may call themselves, if they advocate total government control over the people, they are all, by definition, totalitarians. The debate is not between conservatives and liberals. It goes back in history long before those words were ever invented. The opposing points of view properly are identified as individualism versus collectivism. The individualist believes that the rights of the individual must not be obliterated by the desires of the collective or the group. The collectivist, on the other hand, believes that the group is more important than the single person within it, and that the individual must be sacrificed if necessary for the greater good of the greater number. The individualists believe that every man has a personal and direct responsibility to provide first for himself, next for his family, and then for those outside his family who may be in need. The collectivist, on the other hand, declares that the individual is not personally responsible for charity, for raising his own children, providing for his aging parents, or even providing for himself, for that matter. This is a group function of the state, of government itself.
Everything we talk about, socialism, communism, globalism, and Nazism, guess what? It's all collective society.
Collectivism on an international level is essentially known as globalism, which is often promoted as a framework for unity and sustainability. Under the guise of philanthropy, the leaders of the globalist movement leverage every possible crisis to advance their plan to replace national sovereignty with a one-world government.
We are confronted with so many crises simultaneously. What does it need to master the future?
It is the globalists who are behind the destructive new methods of control, like ESG, the acronym for Environmental, Social, Governance.
And yet here we are in 2025, more divided than ever, yet so many people still think that we live in freedom, still blinded to the totalitarianism that goes on in our own countries. I didn't know there was drones capable of starting wildfires, but I guess we learn something new every day.
Rockefeller seized U.S. media. He also hijacked U.S. medicine. When it was discovered that drugs could be produced from petroleum, America's top oil mogul ordered his army of propagandists to invert reality accordingly. Medicines used for thousands of years were suddenly classified as alternative, while the new, petroleum-based, highly addictive, and patentable drugs were declared the gold standard. After buying a German pharmaceutical company that manufactured chemicals of war for Adolf Hitler, Rockefeller leveraged his political influence by pressing Congress to declare natural healing modalities unscientific quackery. Rockefeller then took control of the American Medical Association and began offering massive grants to top medical schools under the mandate that only his approved curriculum be taught. Any mention of the healing powers of herbs, plants, and diet was erased from most medical textbooks. Doctors and professors who objected to Rockefeller's plan were crucified by the media, removed from the AMA, and stripped of their license to teach and practice medicine. Those who dared to speak out were arrested and jailed. When evidence began to emerge that petroleum-based medicines were causing cancer, Mr. Rockefeller founded the American Cancer Society, through which he suppressed that information.
A world of worker bees where Rockefellers express their glee, as their bees become ill with plea, falling subservient to their knees. Why can the workers not see that the poison they consume is labeled honey? For this one bee can no longer be happy as it realizes its bee's circle of life's destiny. There's a minute of your life you'll never get back. Happy New Year!
Scary last words of Satanists before dying. Anton LaVey. Oh my, what have I done? There's something very wrong. Voltaire. I am abandoned by God, and man, I will give you half of what I am worth if you give me another 6 months of life. David Hume. I am in flames. Thomas Paine. Stay with me for God's sake. I can't bear to be left alone. Oh Lord, help me. Sir Francis Newport. Hold that fire, oh, the insufferable pangs of hell. Aleister Crowley. I am perplexed.
If you were a Satanist, the last thing you'd want to see is God appearing to you in your deathbed, but... Excuse me. Yeah, did Anton LaVey really say what he said on his deathbed?
Okay, what is up with food in America? Because look at this jelly. It's like goop. Usually, when I remember being a kid growing up, the jelly would be like a thicker consistency. Almost like a gelatin. This is like goopy goop. It doesn't even stay on.
One sandwich in, and I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is even in the inside of these bitches. What the fuck?
POV. Your GM tells you to put the expired milk in the milkshake machine.
PSA, don't order food from Walmart plus delivery.
The only thing that looked appetizing from that whole compilation was that big juicy cockroach that was just sitting there in that bag. I can just imagine the crunch. Can I just ask, what the hell was that lad doing with his finger? I mean, it looked like he was making love to it rather than actually biting his nail.
Yeah. Well, you can take this job and shove it. Roll it up, light it up, smoke it up, inhale, exhale.
My dear, I promise to never let you go.
Now, mother... Can't say that.
For Pete's sake, you got me right in the bloody heart. I have got to find me some new friends.
That was horrible. Ooh, right in the keyhole.
Hopefully not the back one.
Oh boy, I guess it's time for me to quit telling lies. You better keep telling lies. I'm laying here waiting on you. Everybody say happy.
Happy. Oh, I could not stand when y'all do that.
I didn't know what else to do.
Who's that over there?
You talking about me?
Definitely not.
Bright light, bright light, bright light.
Everybody runs to pupil perpetrator.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I just love it when my nose gets all shined up.
I don't have that problem. I don't have a nose.
Listen up. Put your hands in the air, mother... Woo.
That's it for today, everyone, and thank you all for watching. And if you enjoyed the compilation, smash that like and subscribe button, and let's try and aim for 50,000 subs by the end of the year. But until the next one, guys, please stay safe and blessed, and I'll see you then.